Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time I would like to have a simple discussion on Nintendo's next massive new game for what we would assume would be on Nintendo Switch 2. And what I ultimately want to get at here is talk about what is that next big game that's going to pop on the console. You look at Nintendo's best-selling games on the Nintendo Switch, and most of them are Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, Smash, Mario Kart, Pokemon, all games from those particular series, and there's very few others that get to those same levels. But when I look through the list, I do see some different games, and I also think about what Nintendo did to start the Switch generation. And so I think it's going to be very interesting to see what we see in that big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd, because there may be a game there that's going to be the next big hit that has us all very excited as Nintendo fans, that's just going to be an awesome thing that so many people are playing. And so I want to get into what that might be, so that's the plan for today. But before going forward, let me take this moment to point out that I am aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers by the time the Switch 2 launches, so if you find yourself enjoying my content, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit that notification bell. So surely, the next Mario Kart, the next 3D Mario, these games are going to do incredibly well. I would be shocked if they don't each sell at least 10 million. And we've already seen some footage of the Mario Kart game, so we know that's coming pretty soon, and 3D Mario is always available in that first year for a new console, so I think it's safe to say we're going to see both come out in this year of 2025, and we will see both in the Switch 2 Direct. But could there be anything else there that's going to be a really big deal? Now, we've talked about how Pokemon Legends ZA, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, there is evidence out there suggesting that both may have some form of a cross-generation enhancement on Switch 2. And Pokemon games always sell really well, that's kind of a given. Metroid Prime 4, on the other hand, is something that is up for debate. Metroid Dread, a 2D Metroid game, sold over 3 million on the Nintendo Switch, and when you look at all the different franchises that have seen success to that level or greater, Metroid's one of the few that isn't a part of the Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, Smash, Mario Kart pantheon of ultimate selling greats. So it is actually surprising to see another IP reach a level like that. And so Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, many agree, is likely going to be a game that has even more sales potential than Metroid Dread, and if it comes out early on to Switch 2 generation, it still can gain some sales from Switch 1, of course, but also if there is a cross-generation version and it is future-proofed, how big of a deal is Metroid Prime 4 going to become? I think probably a pretty big deal. It may be one of the next big Nintendo series. Metroid may evolve here to start the Switch 2 generation. But another Nintendo series that reached a new level recently is Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 came out in 2023, and the game, since we were last told, has sold about 3.5 million copies. Now, if I had to place my bets, I would say that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to outsell Pikmin 4, but Pikmin 4 is clearly showing some real growth here, and the next Pikmin entry could be a bigger deal as well. If Pikmin 5 comes out relatively early onto the Switch 2, perhaps they could also get a little bit of that next generation boost and reach an even greater level than Pikmin 4. But do I think we'll see Pikmin 4 in the Switch 2 Direct? I think we're probably a couple years away from the next Pikmin game, although I would actually be very pleased to see Pikmin 5 so quickly after Pikmin 4. It was clearly a success, and Pikmin 5 might be a great way to show off some next-gen visuals from Nintendo. But what got me thinking about this particular topic for today is the news we got today from Nintendo, the release of the latest Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition trailer. We got the overview trailer, and this overview trailer kind of shows a little bit more of what we already understand. We just get some more really awesome looking gameplay clips. We can see the improved visuals, the colors really pop, there are some new characters and quests. We get a better look at the new area and the epilogue story, we presume, and it looks awesome. And just listening to the trailer, the epic music, when I see this trailer, my thought is, who would not be interested in this game if they give it an honest look? And so it gets me thinking about, well, what about Monolith Soft's next game. Monolith Soft is another Nintendo studio that is responsible for a lot of support development for some big projects, like The Legend of Zelda, for example, but they also develop their own games, the Xenoblade games. And Xenoblade has reached new heights on the Nintendo Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a game that came on the first year of Switch, has sold 2.7 million copies, close to Metroid Dread and Pikmin 4, other Nintendo IP that have reached new levels. And so with Xenoblade X coming out a month from now, I'm sure some people are going to be playing it on their Switch 2, assuming Switch 2 comes out relatively soon, which they've already told us is coming out in 2025, so that seems like a fairly safe assumption. But I'm not so much thinking about Xenoblade X itself being the next big, massive game. Now, I do hope that Xenoblade Chronicles X does go on to sell really well. I think it is going to do a pretty good job, but as we've seen with Switch sales, they have been trending down year by year, including software. And so I would just be happy if Xenoblade Chronicles X reaches the similar level to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 Definitive Edition, which is approaching 2 million copies sold. That would be a win in my opinion. But of course, I do hope that this game manages to reach a little bit of a larger audience, and it leads into the next big game from Monolith Soft. We had seen for years that they were hiring for some sort of new IP project throughout the entire Switch generation, and it's only until recently that they take down that job hiring page. But there's also been these leaks of these different codename projects, and one of them is for Project Legacy, a project that is supposedly being made by Monolith Soft. Now, based off how the codenames work, this is not another Xenoblade game, this would be something else. And so many of us think that there is some sort of big, awesome new IP that is relatively close to completion that may be coming out early on in the Switch 2 generation. Is it going to come out later this year? That's a little bit hard to believe because Monolith Soft is putting out Xenoblade Chronicles X now, and usually they don't put out 2 games in a year. But if they have been working on this game in tandem with their other projects over the last several years, then maybe it's a little bit more conceivable. And considering how successful Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was by coming out in that first year of Switch 1, they may want to have this game, this new IP, ready in that first year of Switch 2 because there is an opportunity to reach a new audience, establish a stronger, larger fan base, and perhaps whatever Monolith Soft has been cooking could become this next big, awesome new series from Nintendo. It could be their next big hit. And it might have more potential than Xenoblade, because while I love Xenoblade, Xenoblade is one of my top 4 or 5 series, I acknowledge that it's not a series that appeals to the most large of audiences. Selling 2 to 3 million copies is pretty good, and let me make that clear. The fact that Pikmin, Metroid, Fire Emblem, and Xenoblade can reach the 2 to 3 million level of copies sold, that is fantastic for some of Nintendo's lesser known IP. There are so many game companies out there that would kill to have sales like that. And so I want to emphasize this point because I think sometimes people look at some of the better selling Nintendo games like Mario Kart, 3D Mario, Breath of the Wild, and so on, and they think that should be the norm. No, selling 20 plus million copies is not the norm. That's the very top of the top. And so the ultimate point is that some of these less popular, still popular Nintendo IP sell well, are lucrative, and are totally a good business move for Nintendo. But I am very curious on what is going to be that next series that reaches that other level. We've seen the Splatoon and Luigi's Mansion have eclipsed the 10 million mark. Is there another Nintendo series that can reach that level? And I think Monolith Soft's new IP has that kind of potential. Perhaps it will take some of the elements we love about the Xenoblade series, but mix it in with some other elements that reach a larger audience. A lot of the typical RPG mechanics we've come to love about Xenoblade don't necessarily appeal to the largest of audiences, so maybe there could be a different gameplay hook, maybe even a different aesthetic, perhaps also in a grand open world setting with some really epic themes. Positioned as an early Switch 2 title, could establish itself as an even stronger Nintendo IP than some of the ones I've discussed so far. Of course, we don't know what it is, we're not even entirely sure it's going to come out, but when I look at some of these early pieces of art for this project, I think, man, whatever that is looks amazing, and I hope it comes out someday. But going beyond this Monolith Soft new IP, what else might there be? Well, there's been a lot of talk of a new Star Fox game. Could a new Star Fox game enter the fray here and completely turn around our expectations for what a Star Fox game can do? I mean, I don't want to rule it out entirely, right? I think it would be unexpected. I think we should be happy if Star Fox hits that 3 to 5 million range like these other series here. That would be wonderful. But if Star Fox comes back and it comes back in a big way that reaches a large audience, that would be crazy. But similar to that first year Switch 1, perhaps Nintendo's planning to put out a new IP. We saw ARMS in 2017, and that game also sold pretty well, 2.72 million. So maybe we see a sequel to ARMS, or maybe there's going to be another new IP that Nintendo will put out there, and they'll see just how well that game does. Maybe that's the next big thing. Now, another angle to consider here is the next big casual series. We look at games like Nintendo Switch Sports, Ring Fit Adventure. Both these games have sold over 15 million copies. Perhaps Nintendo wants to get something out like this early on for Switch 2. And maybe it's not even something that's Switch Sports or Ring Fit Adventure, but an entirely new thing. Personally, I would be pleased with a Switch Sports Resort or a sequel of some kind, but if they come up with something new, well, the sky's the limit here. And what might be really interesting is if they go back to Nintendo Land, a launch title for the Wii U. Now, Nintendo Land was a pack-in for a lot of Wii U's, but what if Nintendo Land takes the role of a Switch Sports or a Ring Fit Adventure this time around? So now it has a very different look and appeal, but it's still a type of game that can appeal to a very large audience. I mean, it's just straight up Nintendo. It's more ambiguous, it appeals to a larger group of people. It's not necessarily one particular IP, but a whole bunch of them combined. I mean, you look at Mario Kart, including all of its characters, you look at Mario Party, you look at Smash Brothers. And so a new Nintendo Land style game could also do really well and could become Nintendo's next big hit. And so there is so much potential for what could be done here, for what could be next, and I'm expecting to see something in that Switch 2 Direct in April that's going to become that next big hit. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.